We finally got Clix versus Peterbot off spawn, and it led Peterbot to have one of his worst placements in years. It's leading a lot of people to say that Peterbot is falling off. I'm going to talk about what happened in the spawn fight and what I think it means going forward for both teams. We also have confirmation of exactly when this season's ending, and we have an end of season event that is looking absolutely crazy. So there's a lot to talk about. Let's jump into it. Star Wars season is coming to an end, and we have the exact date and time this season is going to end. So we have confirmation that the event is taking place on June 7th at 2 p.m. ET. It says doors open at 12 p.m. ET, so at noon, but this is very important because we are going straight into downtime after this event. Fortnite creators tweeted out, heads up, your islands will still be playable during the Death Star Sabotage live event, and you can keep building in UEFN and the creative toolset until its conclusion. So the reason why that's important is it's confirmation the game is going to go down as soon as the event ends, which is very, very early. This is like black hole level early downtimes. You know, this event, I'm guessing, is only going to last maybe like 10, 15 minutes, maybe. So we should have downtime kicking off around 2:30 p.m. ET. That is like 12 hours more early than what we normally see. So I'm super excited for that. I'm going to do a super long stream for this as well. I'll be live for the event, all the downtime, looking at all the leaks, bringing you guys the vibes, and then playing the new season. I love this new time personally. And for those of you guys who aren't enjoying the Star Wars season, you have the light at the end of the tunnel. June 7th at 2 p.m. ET, the season is going to end. You probably haven't even noticed, but my microphone sounds a little bit different in this video. It's because I'm recording this entire video on the microphone on my Razer Black Shark V2 Pros. There is no excuse for having bad microphones in gaming anymore. Please stop putting your friends and teammates through the pain of hearing every time you breathe and every time you rage. Not only that, they're super lightweight, comfortable, and have the amazing sound quality you've come to expect from Razer headphones. I don't just recommend them for gamers, I recommend them for content creators as well. Every single time I travel around the world and I'm still making all the content, when I'm at DreamHack, Esports World Cup, and most recently at the Pro-Am, I've been using these headphones, not just as the microphone, but also for my audio. Instead of having to take my microphone, my boomer, my mixer, a second pair of headphones, a mixer for those headphones, I can just chuck these in a bag with the cable, and that's it. That's all my audio and microphone for my streaming content and gaming. These Black Shark V2 Pros are wireless, but they also have the Black Shark V2X model, which is wired and still has the same amazing mic and audio quality, so they have options to fit any budget. I've been using these headphones for years now before I even joined Team Razer, so trust me, cop a pair, you won't regret it, and you can use code Aussie5 for an extra 5% off. We're going to kick off talking about NA, and we're going to talk about the spawn fight. Obviously, the big focus of the last Cash Cup finals of the season. Clix's team versus Peterbot's team. Now remember, Clix and Yomzo are on back-to-back Cash Cup finals wins. This would be their 4th Cash Cup finals win in a row. Clix's favorite number. But Peterbot did want to try to play spoiler to that. He did contest Clix in the end. It's going to be very, very hard to win a Cash Cup finals while being contested by Peterbot. It was a little bit weird though, because Clix and Peterbot won last week's Cash Cup finals together. I really did think that maybe one of these teams was going to bow out. I thought Pete might actually pull out of the spawn fight. I talked about in yesterday's video, he did talk about how he might be going Shogun or Brutal Boxcars. Didn't end up going there. Dropped on the last order, 6 games out of 6 contesting Clix, and Clix's team came out on top. They won 4 of the spawn fights out of 6. There was no splitting. Neither team tried to disengage. Both teams went down, or at least one of them went down there every single game. Now, you're going to hear a lot of differing reports. Obviously, whenever Clix or Peterbot's involved, there's always a lot of drama. A lot of people have very strong opinions. I'll do my best to give my unbiased opinion. I really, really respect and love both players, so I'm not trying to be biased either way here. Clix's team overall were the better spawn fighters, and that is reflected in the score. They won 4 out of the 6. Now, there was some games where I feel like Peterbot's team had some better loot. They had better white meds especially, which allowed them to out-heal Storm for a bit, because since you're on the very edge of the map, almost every one of these spawn fights ended up going into Storm, which did end up playing a factor into it, but I still think that comes into drop spot knowledge and decision making. If you know you're going to be in Storm, you can play around that and use that to your advantage, or you can, it can be, a hindrance. But overall, I think for the most part, in the 6 games, I think they had very, very even loot most games. Game 1, Peterbot got down first, took down Yomzo out of the sky. They cleaned up Clix and Higgs. That was probably the worst spawn fight out of any of them. Peterbot did a really good job getting down first with that bus pass, won it. But of the next 5 games, they were pretty even fights for the most part. And I do think Clix's team just had the edge. The loot was very even. The meds were even. The mats were even. Now, I did see some people saying that Clix's team was playing cringe. They were sitting on height because they would build up on top of the POI quite a lot and hold Pete's team down when they had the health advantage. And that worked for them when they had the extra white heals, but it also went against them when they didn't, and they lost one of those games. So at the same time, I do think this has kind of backed up Clix's team a lot. If people did think they were weak spawn spawn fighters because we just haven't seen them spawn fight that much. It has potentially hurt Peterbot's off-spawn rep, but for the most part, it isn't a major season. I'm not just saying this is a cop-out to take it away from Clix. Clix played phenomenal, and his drive and preparation coming into what is even the off-season is incredible. Clix filmed an entire Mr. Beast Feastables collaboration stream that had 100,000 viewers, and then he still went back to his office to play this tournament, and he's still been grinding this season. So you can't take that away from Clix's team, because the preparation and the passion, the drive they have is what is making them one of the best teams in NA right now. You can say this is a battle of, preparation versus talent. I did think Pete, Ritual and Cole were going to come in with a bit more firepower, maybe push them around the fights more, but Clix would have better off-spawn knowledge. But for the most part, both teams fought well, and I think Clix's team just fought a little bit better. And yes, that might be because they're more prepared, but that's a big factor of that. Do I think these teams are going to now con each other next season? No. A lot of people are saying, oh, whatever the best POI is next season, Clix is going to lock it down. Pete's not going to con him. He owned Pete. I don't think that's the case. I think if there's an FNCS Grand Finals or an FNCS season in general, Pete is obviously going to come in more prepared, but I think you have to give credit to Clix here. Being prepared is what gave them the edge, and it mattered. They did better in the tournament overall, but I don't think Clix is about to turn around and try to con Pete now, knowing that he can take him down and he's the best team. It's not really Clix's style. I think Clix would rather be uncontested at a really good drop rather than trying to fight Pete for the best drop. And that's what we've seen historically for the most part. I don't know whether that's going to play out, but Clix did have some choice words for Peterbot after he did beat him off spawn. He had this to say about the spawn fight.
You're not streaming. Let me tell you guys something. I just had the biggest fucking stream, 105,000 viewers with all my homies. First partnered with Feastables. Streamed while running 22 minutes of ads. That was the first time I ever did that because chat was pissing me the fuck off. You sat there alone at home in your room. No stream, no nothing. Just a little fucking bitch. And got it on 4 times. Thank God I play my cards right. Let me tell you that.
I can never really keep up where the pros are at with whether they hate each other, whether they're friends. I think it's best to just stay out of it. I know the fans don't like to pick sides, and the drama really does fuel the storylines, which I get that, but it does seem like Clix was a little bit mad at Peterbot, and if it was Peterbot's intention truly to make Clix lose rather than to see himself win, that is kind of crappy. But I do think Peterbot did just want to go this drop spot. He claimed at the start of the season when Clix didn't end up grinding the season, ended up going away and taking a vacation. I think he just came back, and that's the drop he wanted to go. So I didn't see the clip of Peterbot saying his goal is to make sure that Clix doesn't win, but I mean, I can see why Clix came into a pretty heated, why he prepared, and why he wanted to win so badly. And I think that is the storyline that I'm taking away from right now. I think Clix's team does just want it more. And yes, it's the off season. You can make excuses, but coming into FNCS, if Pete, Cold, and Ritual don't start whipping themselves into shape, this could be potentially Clix's season. I'm excited to see it. I love the fact that Clix's team is pressuring Peterbot's team and showing them they aren't unbeatable. So I think that's just better for all of us. If you're a Fortnite fan and you love this game as much as I do, it's just awesome seeing the two best teams go at it and keep each other hungry. I bet this has motivated Pete, because we haven't seen Pete have a Cash Cup performance this bad in years now. It's worth pointing out, this was the first time someone won a Cash Cup that wasn't Clix or Peterbot since like November of last year. It's been that long since another team has won a tournament, because both these teams have been so dominant. So them clashing, them going at it, I think has hopefully ignited some passion in both teams to start grinding coming into next season. They've both got a land spot already locked down, but there's a lot of money on the line, there's a lot of pride on the line, and that has me extremely excited. Let's take a look at the leaderboard, because it was none other than Reed, Cooper, and Curly who were able to close out the Cash Cup win. They finished on 376 points, playing all six matches, winning one of them, but also getting a second, and a fourth. They played phenomenally well. Super excited to see this team do well. They're one of my favorite teams to qualify for LAN. A lot of people had doubted them. This is a trio that formed super last minute. Curly, a really young, underrated player who did get dropped from Rise coming into Grands. Reed has been disrespected for quite a while now, tried to switch off controller to mouse and keyboard to try and give himself the edge, decided it wasn't for him, went back to controller, qualified for LAN alongside Cooper, obviously a LAN winner. I'm super excited to see them pop off. They did beat out Acorn, Bolts, and Sphinx, another phenomenal trio. Acorn again, just keeping Kanada's spot warm for him when he comes back. Obviously that trio is not going to be playing FNCS. Acorn is still playing with Poyo and Ages, but Acorn, Bolts, and Sphinx have been looking really, really good. They also won one of their 6 games. We had Rapid, Booger, and Threats in third, so a little bit of drama with Booger dropping muds and picking up Threats again, but they backed it up with a podium finish. They had really consistent games, an 8th, 8th, 12th, 7th, 8th, and 2nd. So really, really consistent Fortnite from them. Then we had a team I haven't really focused on much. Mason, who again has been around, recently popping off, playing really well. Chimp, who again, has had kind of ups and downs throughout his career, being a little bit quiet recently, but doing really well with Mason. And then Kixian. I've pronounced this guy's name so wrong. I'm so sorry. I think it's like Kian or Kixin. I'm going to try and talk to the guy. I think it's Kixin apparently, but a creative Zone Wars warrior coming fourth alongside Mason and Chimp. Super excited to see for them. Sandman, Broken, and Northern, who won back-to-back games, were popping off, about to bring it home in game 6, but Broken's PC crashed, meaning they only played as a duo last game. And then we had Muzz, G-Money, and Rise just outside in 6th place, and then Golden, Void, and Ozone in 7th. Now, I hyped up the Samurai lightsaber really highly, saying how good of an item I think that was, and we had a 17 elim win come out of Golden, Void, and Ozone abusing Darth Vader's lightsaber. So super happy to see a team, using the lightsaber is extremely fun to watch, as frustrating as to verse. They got a 17 kill win, one of the highest kill wins I've seen in a while in finals. And then we had Sined, Malabuka, and Marius, the EU trio, coming 8th overall. I'll talk about EU's Cash Cup in a second. Then we had Clix, Higgs, and Iomzo finishing in 9th. So despite being contested, they did still get a 9th. There was a couple games that made it off spawn where I think they still should have done a little bit better than they did. But overall, a 4th, 3rd, and a 9th in 3 of their 4 games off spawn is a very very good showing. And then in the round out the top 10, we had Taki, Ishu, and Vert. Now, Peterbot, again, quite a fair bit down the leaderboard in 21st overall. People pointing out that Pete got outplaced by 4 EU teams, but if you've only got 2 games to make it count, there's not a lot you can do with that. People do expect a lot from Peterbot's team. He's been contested in the past where he makes it off spawn, you're expecting at least a top 3. Their best game was a 12 elim 9th. Otherwise, they got a 29th, 30th, 33rd, 21st, and 28th. One of their 2 games, they made it off spawn. Peterbot, I just don't think he realized there was a team still inside a staircase Surge Tower base. I think he lurked up on it. They edited, pumped him, took him down. That messed up the rest of their games. They did really only get most of their points from one singular game. It was a very tough tourney for Pete's team. Moving on over to EU, we had Wox, Tayson, and Pixie win it. They came first on 323 points. They got a 0-point game 6, but they'd already done enough. They already popped off enough to secure their win. They played phenomenally on the day. In second, we had the brothers, Dexy, Eclipse, and Twy. Eclipse and Twy are biological brothers. They came second on 283 points with 2 wins and a 2nd place. So the zones were a little bit weird on EU. We had really far pulling zones to the north and the south. They won 2 of the south zones and they didn't do as well on the north zone. So when they got a south zone, they were absolutely popping off. We had Nefrizzi, Vanya, and Ilusha come 3rd, which means Nefrizzi and Ilusha have now come 1st, 2nd, and 3rd in the 3 Cash Cup finals this season. They played with Vanya instead of Nefrizzi, Ilusha, and Wheat, because Wheat's account was deactivated. I am happy to announce Wheat's account has been reactivated. Not really sure what happened there. Not sure why he had to miss the Cash Cup, but Vanya stepped in. They still came 3rd and played really well. So Wheat is back. No cheating there. Nothing suspicious, which is awesome to hear. And now we had Chap, Mr. Savage, and Rezon coming in 4th. I'm glad this team stuck together. They let vibes take them rather than their placements. Their placements weren't great. They stuck together. They saw it out. They got uncontested again, and they popped off. They were doing really well. They got an 11 kill win and an 8 kill 2nd back-to-back, which shot them up the leaderboard. They then got a 4 kill 7th, but unfortunately their last game wasn't too hot, but a 4th place overall is very good. I think it's definitely enough to keep this team together. Like I said, I think they all wanted to play together, but I don't know if they had another bad placement if they would have stuck together. Their vibes are good, but at a certain point when you got 3 players of that caliber and you have a few bad finals, a few bad tournaments, there's only so much you can see the vibes for. So super happy to see them get a 4th overall. Then we had Hlekus, Dandapuzo, and Uppel in 5th, Combeck, Shark, and Blaha in 6th. A lot of people bringing a lot of hype around Shark. People starting to whisper that, maybe he's overrated. Maybe there's too much hype around him. He's so good mechanically, but he doesn't seem to be placing. But Shark has backed it up, got a 6th place with the polls. Super happy to see Shark back up a lot of the hype there. Then we had Scroll, Hellfire, and Tripper, and our Danes in 7th, Diners, Giras, and Frantic in 8th, Rax, Yanis, and Kiddo in 9th, and then Yapko, Mixon, and Panzer to round out the top 10. As of the time of me filming this video, the Star Destroyer Bombardment update isn't live. It will be live by the time you watch it. You probably, unfortunately, already experienced it. But in case you guys have missed it, Fortnite dropped the trailer showing off what it's going to look like. And let's just say it looks really not fun. It's every single pub and ranked game, there's gonna be a portal on the map. Whoever gets there first is gonna control the Star Destroyer, and it's just going to absolutely rain down terror on the whole lobby. You can blow up entire POIs if this trailer is to be believed. So I think it's fair to say Not going to be playing too much ranked and pubs myself for the next week. Hopefully it's fun for whoever enjoys it. I mean, it's a bit of content. It feels a bit like the Godzilla event. I know Nikkei30 is specifically asking to make sure it's stronger than Godzilla, so we'll see how that one goes. If it sucks, you've always got reload, and like I said, the season is going to end on June 7th. You're almost there. Just hold out. You're so close. Lastly, we got the answer to what is going on with Clix. He is now the first ever content creator signed to Feastable. So what that means is he's signing a long-term partnership. It doesn't change too much for Fortnite. I was hoping to be signed through with Fortnite, but honestly, if you watch the stream that Clix did with Faxity, Lacey, and Marlon, it was genuinely one of the funniest pieces of content I have ever watched. I highly recommend you go back and watch it. Apparently, the whole idea was Clix's, and honestly, it was a phenomenal idea based around Severance. They had to do a whole bunch of challenges to get out, and Mr. Beast always executes so well on these kind of things. The set was amazing. The delivery was fantastic. It was really fun watching the four of them try to get out. Like I said, it has nothing to do with Fortnite, but in case you guys missed that stream, I highly recommend you go watch it on Clix's channel because it genuinely was hilarious.